Your new 2026 Miss America is... Miss New York, Cassie Donegan!
Cassie Donegan is Miss America 2026, a vocalist, performer, arts educator, and advocate. But before any of that, she's someone whose life was shaped by service, creativity, and resilience. She grew up in a military family. She learned discipline early. She learned responsibility early. And she also learned something that doesn't get talked about enough, that serving others only works if you don't abandon yourself in the process.
I definitely think that I had an upbringing that most people would not expect when they look at me or hear Miss America or see where I am today. And I think that's a really important conversation because I think that's most of the population.
Cassie has spoken openly about growing up with real challenges behind the scenes, family health struggles, financial pressure, and feeling out of step with peers at a young age. Instead of hardening her, those experiences shaped how she sees people. And that is with empathy, with patience, and with a deep belief that you don't need someone's backstory to treat them with dignity.
You can acknowledge those feelings, but you cannot let them stop you. And that was handed down to me in a lot of ways. Never once have I been asked to not acknowledge the way I feel. Never once.
Now, creativity has always been a part of her life, not just as a career, but as a form of healing. Music, performance, and the arts weren't extracurricular for her. They were grounding, they were connective, and they became the foundation for the work she's doing now.
What's really interesting is that 6 weeks prior to being announced as Miss America, I was announced as first runner-up to Miss New York. I thought that was it. I was aging out. I thought that I was never going to be Miss America. You are the only person who actually has the reins on your life, who gets to dictate what happens. And yes, some things are out of our control, but what are we going to do with it? I am the oldest Miss America in history.
And today, she steps into one of the most visible roles that has ever existed. And what I appreciate about Cassie is that she doesn't pretend that visibility changes who she is as a person. She talks openly about staying grounded, staying human, and staying connected to purpose in a world that often rewards image over substance.
If nothing else, I hope that people are able to walk away from my year of service as Miss America being able to have felt seen and loved and heard. Not just by me, by the organization as a whole.
Your perspective is what makes you so special and what makes you the best Miss America. You're definitely my favorite one.
Thanks.
But you are the epitome of what Miss America is all about because of what your lived experience, what you've been through, the blood, sweat, and tears that got you to this point, the perspective. And now you can share that story with the world and inspire millions of people.
If someone thinks you're too much, then they can go and find less. And if someone thinks you're not enough, then they're not searching in the right place, because I promise you that you are.
This is The Conversation with Miss America 2026, Cassie Donegan. Welcome to the Hero Front Podcast. So, do you remember where we met?
Yes, we were on, did we actually meet on Media Row, or did we meet before that at the USAA?
It was at the
sponsored
USAA.
game?
It was at they had like this sectioned off area before, like a few days before the game, where they had stuff for USAA members.
Yes, we were in the hallway.
We were in the hallway.
Yes.
And I just, I'm a retired airman. I retired in February of last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I ran into a chief that I used to, collaborate with, work with. And she worked for USAA. So the first person I run into is someone I know.
Yeah.
Which that's what I love about the military. You have friends for life. Everywhere I go, I run into someone I know. And that's always been super special to me. So I was like riding this high when I see you walk in, and I'm like, oh my, I've never met Miss America. Like that's never even close. And so to see you in person, it was like it was amazing. It was like, I mean, just your energy was felt immediately. You're super thankful for where you're at. I can tell. And everywhere you go, you're just radiating positive energy. And I love that about you right away, which is why I asked you to come on. And I knew you would say yes because you're just a great person. But I was hoping that we could kind of take it back a little bit. I know you've spoken about your upbringing before, and a lot of my audience is in the military. And I know your dad served, and it was, it built your foundation. It helped you, be the resilient Cassie that I'm seeing today. And my dad served too. He did 26 years in the Air Force. I'm a fourth generation airman, all the way from when the Air Force started, from my great grandfather. And so I know that feeling, right? I know the feeling of looking at your dad as a hero. And respecting his service and all the hard work he's put in. And then on the back end, we go through a lot. Like I've had a lot of toxic exposures. I've been a maintainer. I've been around a lot of chemicals. I've been a medic out in Israel where stuff was getting wild. Like there's lingering after effects, right? That health issues, things that we have to deal with too. And I love that you address those things and make it a little more aware. But Cassie, I'm talking too much. Let's hear your upbringing, and kind of your foundation and how it shaped you into the person that you are today.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely think that I had an upbringing that most people would not expect when they look at me or hear Miss America or see where I am today. And I think that's a really important conversation because I think that's most of the population. We are very quick to make assumptions visually based off of something we see in front of us. And while that is how it kind of is supposed to be, we then have to not allow those assumptions to be factual in our brain because most time they're not. Right? That's not the whole story at all. And so I really think it's, as Miss America, an important conversation for me to have to be able to amplify those differences of what people may assume versus what actually was my reality. And I come from a long line of veterans on both sides of my family, primarily on my father's side, long line of naval veterans. So my great grandfather was a naval pilot. World War II. His brothers were as well in the kamikaze era of World War II. My grandfather was an aviation technician in the Navy, and then my father was a fireman. He was hull tech in the Navy. So long line. We also have my grandmother's brother, so my great uncle. He served in the Army, and he actually was a recipient of the Silver Star. And yeah, and nobody
That's
even knew
wild.
until his funeral, just because of how humble and quiet and private a lot of those
Mm,
experiences are to veterans and
mm.
servicemen and women. And so also on my mother's side as well, my great uncle, is that how that works? I know it's like an extra great when it's your great grandparent, so maybe my great uncle, he served as well as my great grandfather. So a lot of background there that I think really shaped the way that my family operates. My dad is from Massachusetts. He's from right outside of Boston, Jamaica Plain. And so that that whole culture up there as a whole is very specific in how families operate. Very strong rooted Irish Catholic family in the Northeast, and that very much radiates through the way they operate. Then you have my mom's family. That is a small Southern family, Southern Pentecostal holiness family from the middle of nowhere in a very small town in North Carolina, and then eventually moved to a small town in Virginia. Tobacco farmers, very different worlds, right? And yet we have this common ground of having that very family centric atmosphere rooted in service of some kind. And so that definitely trickled down to me as a person, because I think more so than many of my siblings, because we have large age gaps. So I am the middle in my mom's house and the oldest in my dad's house. My parents were divorced when I was very young. And so they it impacted me in a way that it impacted my siblings differently, I think, because I, in a lot of ways, grew up with my parents in certain elements of their lives as well. And I think that's a blessing. I get my parents for a very long time, God willing, and that's incredible. But there was also a lot to maneuver and navigate in terms of things that were related to my father's service. And then my mother herself is a multi-stroke and heart attack survivor. And so she has had her own health journey that she has battled on her own as well. And I was kind of there right in the thick of it. And both of those elements impacted our finances. It impacted the emotional state of the house. It impacted a lot, right? And a lot of it was out of many people's control. But something that I always saw as a constant is they had these very prominent things in their lives that impacted them negatively, just to be quite frank, in a very hefty way. And everything was done to still make me feel like a priority and make me feel positivity amidst what was a lot of what people would consider obstacles, because they were in a lot of ways. And I had a very different life at home than many of my peers. And that was difficult to wrap my head around at a young age. Nobody likes to feel other. And I often did. And I think having that background that my dad had, that just kind of, it requires resilience in you, right? When you are serving, to pick yourself up and to continue on and to figure it out. You can acknowledge those emotions, you can acknowledge those feelings, but you cannot let them stop you. And that was handed down to me in a lot of ways. Never once have I been asked to not acknowledge the way I feel. Never once have I been asked to not talk about it, but I have been asked to acknowledge it and then pick up and learn from it and keep going. And so that was the very, very long-winded answer to, I think, the baseline of what my upbringing was and how that service had shaped me directly. Is I had two parents, one of which served, was then left with some pretty serious things to maneuver and work through as someone post their service. And how do we now parent, both as young parents and while we're dealing with these things ourselves, and in a lower income household through divorce, so co-parenting, right? And still maintaining positivity for our child. And they did a pretty darn good job of it. And they were really, really solid examples, and still are, of overcoming difficulties that you absolutely can't control. While you can't control your circumstances, how are you going to control your reaction to them, right? And that set me up to be able to observe the world in a way that I think is very different than a lot of the people that I grew up around.
Wow. You know, I'm a suicide prevention specialist too. I got to do that right after I retired. Unfortunately, I got wrapped up in the whole Doge stuff. So all the new positions were cut. I was a new position, but I got to do it for 6 months. And a lot of what you're talking about is kind of rooted in the training that I've had. One thing that I keep, popping up in my head is reframe. And that's basically, we all have trauma. We all have really tough. I mean, life is tough. Read the Bible. It's been tough since the dawn of time, right? It has never once been easy for anyone. But how you look at your life, right? Like I've had, people have their trauma as their identity. And I really feel for them because I was that person once. I come from a crazy divorce, chaotic background too. My family is amazing. They're great people. They just could not find someone to marry for the life of them. So my dad's on his third wife and my mom is on her third husband with kids, in between. It's a huge mixed family. And so like on my dad's side, which I was primarily raised on his side in Maryland, I had 5 sisters. I was the only boy of 5 sisters. Wow. I credit them to being a podcaster because, their version of storytelling needed all the details. And it got me really good at explaining a story thoroughly. And so I attribute a lot of my success to 5 sisters. But Cassie, I think it's amazing that you've used reframe to take trauma and kind of look at it differently, to fuel you, to give you empathy, to give you purpose. And that's super powerful because it's ultimately it's up to you how you look at those situations, right? It's up to you. Sometimes it feels like it's not up to us. But it is at the end of the day. And I'm super proud of you for just everything you've accomplished, because I know that coming from that background myself, having a parent, my dad in the military, going through the divorces, the custody battles, the co-parenting, the spending my summer in South Carolina with my mom, otherwise I'm in Maryland going back and forth. That did give me trauma. pretty significant trauma. And, I had a drinking problem, got a heart virus, almost lost my life.
Oh my
I,
gosh.
I went broke, I had debt. I was about to get out the military at 6 years with nothing, worse than I started. It was the worst feeling in the world. I felt like I wasted, this opportunity.
Yeah.
And then God showed up and gave me that second chance, which was I got to retrain. I got to rejoin the military. I got to stay in, and I got to do a new career and become a medic. And that blessing put me on a whole different path. I was like, I have another chance
Yeah.
to get this right. And that's when I met my wife. It all kind of happened at once. And it was kind of a miracle. But that's why I have a deep respect for you, because I know it's not easy to be successful and happy when you have trauma like that. But, through your faith, through your purpose, through the way you connect with others and how you make them feel, 'cause that's the secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
I was drinking because I was trying to heal myself
Yeah.
with alcohol, which does not work. It might work for a weekend.
Right.
It definitely doesn't work for 5 years. Um, but there's so many other ways you can go about it. And the biggest way I found, the way that healed me the most, was helping other people. It was never about me. Trying to fix me was not working. What fixed me was when I started doing military funeral honors. I did funerals for 2 years. I was a Air Force honor guardsman for Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri. And I was able to truly serve the community and these families that lost their loved one. And that just shaped my whole, like, changed my whole world. It made me super thankful for everything I had in my life. And Cassie, I see that with you. I see that you're on this amazing journey. And I want to get into that next, actually, because with my daughter, I wanted her to watch it too. She's 8. Her name's Summer. I educated her all about you, Miss America. I wanted her to see all that because she likes to sing, act, dance.
Yeah.
She's so smart. She's so sharp. Her and my son are just amazing kids. But we watched your video together when the announcement, it almost made me cry. Like, I got teary. I'm not going to lie. Like you were so happy, and it was such a powerful moment that I quite literally felt it through YouTube.
Yeah.
And it made me emotional. My daughter's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "This is amazing." But that's what I wanted to talk about, Cassie. I want to talk about that moment, right? Because I feel like you had a hiatus or something, right? You took a break,
Yeah.
and then you probably weren't expecting to get the whole thing right out the park right away, right? Right. When you rejoin something, you don't expect to like crush it out the gate,
Right.
but that's what happened, right?
Sort of. So, what's really interesting is that 6 weeks prior to being announced as Miss America, I was announced as first runner-up to Miss New York.
So this is an underdog story.
Yeah. So I had not even been announced as the winner. I thought that was it. I was aging out. I thought that I was never going to be Miss America.
Oh no.
And then a series of events that we don't need to get into took place.
We
And
all got those events we don't need to get into.
Yeah.
I get it.
long story short, all was figured out that I was always intended to be Miss New York. And it was a mind game for me, right? Of walking into this space where the public perception was that I was never supposed to be Miss New York. And walking into what I knew was a room of 51 of the most exceptional women in the country, because it is not easy to get to Miss America. Statistically, you will have a higher chance of your son playing the Super Bowl than you will have a daughter on stage at Miss America.
That is wild.
Yeah. And here I have somehow broken the system to become one of those statistics when the narrative originally was that I wasn't supposed to be. And it was one of those moments where I like to say it that God really said, you guys can try really hard, but you're not going to break my plan. Right? And that I firmly believe that you are in the places you are at because you're supposed to be there, regardless of how you got there. And I think it was definitely a test for me of that resilience, right? Of not allowing the outside noise, because believe me, there was a lot of it, because nobody actually knew what happened. Nobody really knew the details of what went on behind the scenes of how one night I was announced as first runner up and within 48 hours I was now Miss New York, right? And
Wow.
what they don't understand within that either is that I was not the only person in that story, right? Some details we don't need to know.
What's up, everyone? Josh White here. And I get asked the exact same question every single week. And that is, Josh, how do I start my own podcast journey? They want to share their story. They want to share the stories of others, but they get caught up on step one, how to get started. But here's the deal. I'm here for you. We're going to start this journey together. All you have to do is email me at herofrontmediallc@gmail.com, and I will send you my personalized free guide to get you started. The software, the apps, the editing tools, the tips and tricks, all of it will be yours for absolutely free. On top of that, I'm going to put you in touch with my premier editing team. The same people who make all my intros, who make all my trailers and help me reach tens of thousands of people, sometimes millions of people, with how insanely engaging these trailers are. I hope to hear from you soon so we can get you started on this podcast journey.
And that's okay. There are some parts of stories that we don't get to know everything about. And I understand that can be difficult to wrap your head around when someone's a public figure, especially. We feel like, especially with parasocial relationships, we do know these people. We are owed that information. And so that was really hard for me to navigate through, that my story was directly connected with someone else's story and someone else's story. And then this other person had a part, and it would become this thing that didn't just affect me, right? And we see that in so many things in life, where going into that moment, I really had to just decide for myself that nobody else's opinion of me was my business. Because if I allowed everyone else's opinion on the situation to interfere with something that I knew I had worked so hard for and rightfully earned, and I had my spot there. And even if for whatever reason someone wanted to say in some way I hadn't, God put me there. And that alone is intentional and purposeful enough for me to have earned my spot there, you know? And so that orientation was rough. It was a little hard for my brain. I had to go back that first day to my room and really just kind of orient myself and ground myself in that authority, and decide how I spend my week is entirely up to me. It is not up to anyone else or any of these circumstances. And I remember just allowing myself to enjoy it, regardless of what happened. So many things had already happened for this to fall into place how it had. And I knew that I was supposed to be there, right? And so when I went into my interview, my private interview, the very first question that I was asked was, obviously, as a performer and a storyteller, what would I want my story to be to people as Miss America? And it just sort of flew out of my mouth that I shouldn't be here.
Oh, no.
But no, like in a good way, not an oh no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it was very much, it was intentional. But it was not what I was expecting to be my very first question right out the gate. Like I knew that I wanted that narrative to come up, because regardless of everything that had happened in July at Miss New York, that theme was still very true, because we have a misconception, especially in pageantry, but in the entertainment industry as a whole, that you have to come from a certain background. You have to come from a certain financial status. You have to have access to certain things to be able to be successful. And that's just factually not true. And I spent less than $1,000 from my rehearsal clothes all the way to my onstage wardrobe in total in what I wore at Miss America. And I was standing on stage. I won Miss America in a $400 gown that was free, actually, but retailed for $400 next to $10,000 gowns.
I thought it was a $10,000 gown. It looked amazing.
Thank you. That's not to say there's anything wrong with a $10,000 gown. If you have the resources for it, go get it. Yeah. But if you don't stop yourself from doing something. And so having lived that experience, having lived a life that did not necessarily set me up to have been in a Miss America interview, right? Our reality was sometimes our lights weren't on. And here I was interviewing for the job of Miss America. That doesn't make sense in a linear timeline. Like, you know what I mean? But I said to the judges, I said, and I gave them that background, and the whole point of it was that doesn't matter. What matters is that you do not allow life to prescribe your outcome, because you are the only person who actually has the reins on your life, who gets to dictate what happens. And yes, some things are out of our control, but what are we going to do with it? If we allowed everything out of our control, whether minor or major, to completely derail our plan for ourselves, God's plan for ourselves, then we would never get anywhere. We would constantly be that bird flying against the wind in the sky that's not moving, right? And so when we got to that moment of just Sadie and I, Miss Texas, standing there at the end, it was unbelievable, first of all, because I had watched Miss America every year since I was little, with hopes of one day being there, right? So it was so surreal just in that fact, of the fact that I was there and now it's us in the final two. And I looked at Sadie when it got down to the two of us, and I said, "You're going to be an incredible Miss America." And we had some back and forth that went on in those moments. That was just I'm so thankful for. And I could not have asked to be standing there with a more just heartfelt, exceptional, and kind woman to have shared that moment with. And I'm very grateful for those very, very long seconds that it felt like we were standing there for. And I had
It was long.
It was long, right? Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
I had no idea what was going to happen. And I meant it when I told Sadie that she was going to be an exceptional Miss America. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think any woman on that stage would have been phenomenal at this job. And when they called out New York, as I think anyone can see, it literally knocked the wind out of me. I was not prepared for that, to hear that. And it's been, like you said it earlier, I'm very grateful to be where I am because of many things. But if nothing else, I have a really unique opportunity to show not just little girls, but people of all ages, all genders, all identities, that you can't allow other people's words, actions, thoughts, or intentions stop you from stepping into your purpose. Because how disappointing would it be if we're busy worrying about what our life looks like compared to theirs, that we entirely miss our purpose, right? And what that kind of a domino effect has. Because if you want something, you absolutely can achieve it. It may not be as easy for you as someone else. I'm not going to promise you an easy road to get to the thing that you want. It's probably not going to be, actually, at all. But if you decide that that's enough for you to throw in the towel, then that's really disappointing, because I promise you that you have the opportunity to be exceptional at whatever it is you're trying to do. You just have to be ready to take it on and look life in the face and say, keep on trying. Because when you have light in you and you have purpose that is greater than you, the universe is going to try to push you down time and time again. It doesn't want that. That's not at all what it wants. So you have to be able to get yourself back up and say, no, I know what I can do and I'm going to do it. And that moment was kind of a culmination of that in many ways for me, but it was also this incredible door that flung open for me to be able to look at other people around me and say, do not listen to anybody or anything tell you no, because you are beyond capable of doing it.
Wow. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Like, I knew it took a lot to get there, obviously, but I am now realizing the odds that you have faced. Because you said statistically, you could probably have someone in the Super Bowl as your child in the Super Bowl versus having them on stage as Miss America. It's that hard to get to that stage. Look, add on those other obstacles you had, and what does that look like? I mean, astronomical odds, 1 in a trillion odds. You basically winning the lottery odds.
Yeah.
Right. And you pulled it off. I truly feel like it was meant to be. because when I met you, I felt that. Like I could tell that you were the one. Because and I think you being so thankful for it. You never said that to me, right? You didn't say, "Hey, I'm Miss America. I'm thankful to be Miss America." You never said that, but I got that feeling from you. And now hearing everything you've been through to get to that point, I'm just so proud of you. I mean, that is unbelievable, Cassie. It's amazing.
Thanks. And I think, I get asked so often what is my favorite part of this job. And I genuinely mean it when I say I love getting to meet and love the people that I meet. Because, yes, typically when I am meeting someone, that is their one and probably only time they'll ever interact with Miss America. But what they forget is that's probably my one and only time that I'm going to interact with them. And that is just as impactful to me.
Oh wow, that is special.
My favorite thing is getting to hear the stories of the people that I'm meeting and their why and who they are and what makes them tick. And I carry that with me in so many ways. I mean, I can name people from different events that I've done and the way that they impacted me at that event because this is not just an opportunity for me, right? It is an opportunity for me. It has opened so many doors in my career and the philanthropy that I do. It has been incredible. But at the root of this, at the root of our organization, at the Miss America opportunity, and who Miss America has to be is service, right? And I have always said and believe wholeheartedly if service is below you, then leadership is above you. And that is something that I have tried to lead as a COO at work, as an educator, and as a fellow performer to the people I'm sharing the stage with, but especially as Miss America, because the root of what matters in my job are the people that I am serving and the communities that I get to pour into. Because without that, then truly, what are we doing here? Right. And then our organization directly serves every woman who graces the stages from the local all the way to the national level by pouring into us with not only opportunity, but financially. I mean, we are the largest scholarship provider for women in the country. And that
That's
has
amazing.
then in turn allowed other women to go on and pursue their not only scholastic dreams, but then also their careers in ways that are impacting more people. And so I am like in a way that I can't even put into words, so grateful to be here because the impact that I am able to have on people as Miss America, which is something that I have just always dreamed of being able to do, is being able to positively impact people in a way that's going to have that domino effect for generations to come and being able to positively change somebody's life, even if it's just one person, but hopefully more than that. The way that I'm able to do that so efficiently and effectively because of Miss America is something that I am so grateful for.
Wow, and you have an amazing team too. I loved your
Yeah.
your team. Or they seem like quite the characters. Uh, like you have another odd. I'm sorry, I have ADHD, like I said
The
earlier.
same.
But when we were, I was thinking back to the odds stacked against you. There's one other thing here I want to point out that is super special. You're, I believe, the second redhead in the history to have ever
Third.
won. Third. So
Yeah.
it's a super small number. It was like, I know it was like two or three.
Yes.
Because I heard you mention that on a podcast, and I thought,
Yeah.
that is fascinating. Like, how old is Miss America? Like, how many people are we talking about?
So she's 104 years old, but I am the 98th. So we've missed a few years with, some more time as well as COVID and things of that nature. One time someone won twice. That's never happened again. But we've skipped some years. And so there's 104 years of Miss America existing. 98 of us have had the honor of wearing her name across our chest. And so I'm also one of the shortest. I don't know if I am statistically the shortest. I think it might be Chantel and I are very close in that. And then I am the oldest Miss America in history. So
No.
yes, yeah.
Oh my God.
So there are many firsts here that I think are really cool that just prove even more that narrative of do it. Just go and
Yes.
do it because so many people questioned why would somebody at 28 years old want to be Miss America, especially when so much of it is scholarship oriented. Well, I can still use that scholarship money. There's not a cap on education. I love learning things, right? I can always get more education. But also because who says that 28 is old, first of all?
I'm 41, so it sounds pretty young to me.
Right? But also Who says that whether someone is 28 and wanting to be Miss America, or they're 65 and wanting to open a brand new business, or anything else beyond that, that they're wrong in doing so, or that they're incapable of doing so, right? And I said it in my top 11 answer that as Miss America, I hope I'm able to show people from young all the way to old, everything in between, that they are more than capable than the box that society puts them in. And I meant that because I am a small town girl from a town in the South who comes from a lower income family with many health obstacles in the way. And I had a lot of narrative surrounding me of the things that I was capable of. And I am proud to say that I feel that I have superseded those boxes that were put around me in a lot of ways, and people have to understand, and they have to know that from within themselves, but sometimes it takes someone saying it to them. They as well can supersede any sort of barrier or box or obstacle that anyone tries to put on them, and a lot of them are mental, and we often have to overcome those mental obstacles and those walls that we can sometimes put up ourselves by assumption of what we think other people are going to view us as, right? And I've learned that a lot from my dad. He, especially post his service, has dealt a lot similarly to some of the things that you have spoken of yourself, and just some of those similar struggles. And there are some days where I can hear him say sometimes things along the line of, oh, of course that's going to happen because I am me, And I have to be like, okay, but no, let's look at the things that you have done in spite of some of these other things that have happened. And I'll say I've watched him change his mindset quite a bit, like reframing, as you've talked about, in the last handful of years, especially. And so many things have just fallen into place. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. It's never going to be. But I think so often, like you said, we've had to reframe that mindset and overcome those obstacles that sometimes we put an even stronger barrier on than the people who initially placed that thought in our head ever could have. Yeah, and so I think, as Miss America and all of the things and all the odds and all of the firsts and oldests and all of that, it's just, it tees me up very well to be able to say, who cares? Like what other people think? Who cares what someone's opinion might be? Who cares if someone thinks you didn't win and you shouldn't be there? Because you go out there and you show the world what you are capable of, regardless of anything that's happened in the past, regardless of anything you may or may not have planned on happening, and change the narrative then. Don't let the narrative that's trying to write itself be what is. And you write one for yourself.
I mean, with everything you've said, I don't think there's a better Miss America. Like,
You?
honestly, because you've worked your ass off for this, and you've had every odd stacked against you to the point where, I mean, you even mentioned your age, you mentioned your height. There's so many, there's so many things that you've overcome in this process that, to me, it's just fate. It was meant to be, because you are the perfect example of accomplishing your dreams because of the odds you faced. I mean, it's wild. It's a miracle. And now, how amazing you get to share that with the world. Everyone now knows you. They know your story. They know how much work you've put into this. From an outside perspective, it's just like, oh, did you start last year? How does this work? You've been doing this since you were like nine, I think.
Yeah, so we have the Little Sisters program. So I was involved with that from 9 to 12. And then I came back at 14. I was Miss Virginia's Outstanding Teen and the Miss America opportunity at the time. And then I took a break for a while and came back to Miss New York this year. And I always stayed very adjacent to the Miss America opportunity, though. So many people I love have continue participating or volunteering in some way. So it's been a very prominent part of my life, despite me not being a delegate within a state organization for a long time. But I'm very grateful that I have been able to be a part of two very incredible state organizations between Virginia and New York that have exceptional leadership, and then to be handed off to, I mean, like you said, I have an incredible team at Miss America HQ, and they support me wholeheartedly. Our CEO, Robin, she will stand behind me on any dream that I want to attempt to achieve as Miss America, and she will do everything in her power to make it happen. And I think it's just a continued testament to, yes, I overcame things, I showed resilience, but I didn't do that alone, right? And I continue on this journey not alone. And I think some of the biggest strength that someone can show is knowing when to delegate and when to ask for help and where to get that support, and knowing
Oh,
your strength,
100%.
right? And like knowing your strengths and weaknesses and who can help you in that, and how to come together to make the organization as strong as it can be, but also to make yourself as strong as you can be. And I am the definition from the time I was born until now and every day of my life. The definition of it takes a village, and it always has. And I am so grateful to my village for showing up continuously in the way that they do. I have a family, both chosen and given, and those who choose me as their family, that I truly, I can't, I don't, I, you could be a saint and I still don't think you deserve the love that I have been poured into my life. You know what I mean? Like, it comes in multitudes, and I don't know what I ever did to receive it in that way and the support that I've always been given, but I am extremely grateful for it. And I think they have made me comfortable to say that, yes, I did achieve all of these things, right? And I thank you for your incredibly kind words on all of it. But I think it's really important to note that I am certainly not the only person capable of that. And I think that's the point, right? And whether it's becoming Miss America or anything else, even if it is literally the biggest thing that it seems like you can do right now is getting out of that bed in the morning, you're capable of it. And I don't ever want somebody to look at or hear my story and be like, oh my gosh, well, she overcame so many things, and feel like defeated that what they may feel like are lesser is not worthy of them feeling the overwhelm that they do. Or on the opposite end of that, there are people who have gone through significantly more and worse than me, and they do every day. And I don't want them to look at it and think, oh, well, of course she was able to overcome that. I have this. I want everyone to understand within themselves that I am just one of many who is capable of overcoming whatever is in their way. And I think being surrounded by so many servicemen and women and veterans my entire life has really fueled that in me, and really fueled my desire to ensure that access to those services that enable them to do that are there, and that the support is there, because not everybody is blessed like I am to have a family around them that supports them in the way that mine does. And we sometimes have to create that for those who need that support and need that love and that encouragement, because while you ultimately have to decide for yourself to do it, like I said before, we sometimes need that external push and that spark to do so. And so I, if nothing else, just want people to understand that, sure, it's been this journey has not just been mine. And yes, it is a huge accomplishment that I have done, but it is not lost on me that I did not do it alone in so many ways. But I am also not the only one capable of doing that. There are odds that people
Right.
meet every day. And I want them to know that they can do that, you know?
Anything's possible. It's
Yeah.
it's your mind's. It's all up here.
Yep.
This could be your greatest ally or your worst enemy.
Yep.
But ultimately, it is our choice. It doesn't feel like it sometimes when people are criticizing or
Yep.
gossiping. And I've been to therapy a bunch of times, and the one lesson that I take away from therapy is you can only control what you can control. I think like 9 out of 10 of our problems come down to that right there. You can only control what you can control. I can't control anyone else but me and what I think and what I do and what I say. Once you accept that, it gets a lot easier to navigate, right? Because I'm not like wasting energy trying to change everyone's mind and things.
Mhm.
And Cassie, I've been down that imposter road.
Yeah.
Trust me. Trust
Yeah.
me. Who you're seeing now, the people who know me today that's known me back then cannot believe who I am today. They can't believe it. I was knocking on death's door. I had a heart virus from my bad, health habits. I gave up. Uh, and yet somehow, the spark, the teamwork, everything you said, the spark for me was winning my first big award.
Mm.
It was at Whiteman Air Force Base. I was doing those military funeral honors. We turned the whole program around. We made such a huge impact. And the day I got that award, it was in front of the whole base, right? It was like, because we had leadership visiting, so it was a packed house. And I won the annual award, which is huge for the base. And my wife got there with my brand new baby girl, and everyone said, "Make a hole, his wife's here." And she asked, it's like she got there right as I was being handed the award. And then everyone made a hole, and she got to come up with my little girl and take a picture with me. That night we go out to eat, and I think it's a free pass to drink, right? Because we're celebrating. I was so happy. Felt so much love in my heart that from that day, which was like 8-9 years ago, I've never had another drink of alcohol again. That love, that support, literally healed my heart. It healed me, and I've never needed alcohol again from that day till now, which is, I mean, I get emotional talking about it
Yeah.
because I gave up, and to be given this other chance, and everything you're saying is like really bringing me back right now because I know how it feels. Everything you're describing, and the teamwork. So when I was in honor guard, I had a large team. Usually we have 5 people we supervise. In honor guard, I had 30 at a time, 60 a year. Huge mission, right? And I didn't even know where to start. I'm like, why did I ask for this job? What am I doing? I can't. And I tried to do everything myself, right? Because I felt like if I asked for help, I was cheating somehow, or it wasn't, you know, I wasn't living to my potential. Look, we
Yeah.
all ask for help. You literally, you were better together. And when I started leveraging the airmen and their talents, that is why we became so successful. As soon as I relinquished the control and leveraged my team to better the mission for everyone, miracles happened. Doors opened. Everything worked out. Had Josh just tried to carry it all, it would never have worked. And so when I won that award, I went on a tour as well because I ended up winning the 12 Outstanding Airman of the Year, the highest
Wow.
enlisted award you could get. The same award my dad won when I was a kid, and he was my guest of honor. And I learned a powerful lesson. Every time everyone congratulates me, I always redirect it back to the team, as you did, because it was so hard for me to ask for help. I want to show other people my success is directly tied to asking for help.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we so often teach people that asking for help is weakness, but it's literally the opposite. And, I think yes, it's always great to have a goal or something of that nature, right? And the reality is though for a lot of people they feel like they don't have that, right? There's not like that checkpoint of once I achieve this thing or once I receive this or once I do this, then that'll make this work worth it. And so, like, for example, my dad's moment was walking out of his room and seeing a picture of me and my brother and my sister and just having some realization of, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And the trajectory of his life changed in how he operated. And I think it's important too to note that we don't always have to be chasing some goal to one improvement, and those goals are really incredible and great and awesome. But if you are maybe at a point in your life where those goals or achievements maybe aren't in place anymore, that's not really, I don't want to say not an option because they're always an option, but not in your immediate circle of accessibility, just being here and being a part of someone's team in some way is enough of a reason to want to show that resilience and persevere and find that change. And sometimes asking for help is what makes you a part of somebody's circle, and indirectly you find your own through that. And I think especially I see this displayed often in the men in my family who have served. They are seen as they should be, the strongest of us all. And so they can never break that facade, right? And what I think they forget is that it is never a nuisance, it is never an upset, it is never showing weakness to allow those of us who are a part of their circle and their tribe and their community to help. Even if the end goal is not for something like winning Miss America or opening a business or achieving this thing, right? If the end goal is literally getting to tomorrow, that is more than enough reason. Even more so than those achievements we just listed off, right? To ask for help, because not everyone serves in the form of serving our country, but every single person can serve those who have. And I think it's often forgotten how much of an honor and a privilege it is when your loved ones come home to then be the one who is able to help when they ask for it. And they often translate that as a nuisance or showing weakness, when the reality is you can do nothing stronger than acknowledging you need support in some way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. My family is what got me through my career. I always, give love to the military spouses because sometimes they get poked fun at or there's memes and all these things. But the reality is we would not be where we're at without them. Period. Dot. And a lot of the spouses are men too, by the way. I have one of my best friends is a guy who's a stay-at-home dad. He's an amazing guy. His name's Seneca. Shout out to him. But without my family, I'm nothing. They give me so much love and purpose in my heart that I'm successful because of them. And I don't think we should ever lose sight of that.
Yeah.
The purpose that our family and our support brings us and the service members. But Cassie, we're almost out of time here. I know you're busy. You're busy. You're Miss America. I want to do something different this time. I want to learn something. I want the audience, everyone, including your loved ones, your friends, your family, to learn something new about you today with random questions from this deck.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
I did this one other time and it was really cool because these questions are so good. Okay, so I'm going to pick one out here. I'm going to cheat and I'm going to pick one myself if that's okay.
Great. Yeah.
Okay, this should be interesting. What is your favorite compliment someone has given you? Because you get a lot. That's why I'm asking that one.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I have to be honest. Accepting compliments can be difficult for me. I am my worst critic. So sometimes when I hear them, I have to work really hard to digest them. Um, hmm, I don't know. My favorite one, probably. It means a lot to me when my students' parents say things about the way that I've impacted them in some way positively. I don't know if I can pinpoint just one, but being able to pour into young people in the way that I get to, and being able to help them find their creative voice and be confident in it, means a lot to me. And so when their parents or loved ones are able, or themselves are able, to articulate the way that that support has manifested, is I really, really appreciate those moments.
That's beautiful. All right, I'm gonna hit you. There's different levels. I'm gonna hit you with a
Okay.
deeper level. Okay. We're gonna go for a okay. Oh, here's a good one. What insecurities have you grown out of?
Mm, grown out of. I think when it comes to like my entertainment career, I have often been told to cover up my southern accent quite a bit, which obviously, yes, not every character is from the South, but I had a lot of feedback a lot of times about how they didn't want to work with me because they could hear my Southern accent, not singing, not doing the scenes, but just talking in general. And that was really hard to hear, that I was maybe going to have to fundamentally hide something that was fundamentally a part of who I was, to be successful in this industry. And I had one director, Eric, who looked at me one day because I had gotten nervous in an audition, and I kind of you could hear it. And he was like, "Where are you from?" And I told him, I was like, I'm from a small town in Virginia.
You're like, America.
But I can cover it. Yeah. I'm like, but I can cover it up. And he goes, "No, don't." He's like, "Don't cover it up." And long story medium, I ended up being the dialect coach for that show, because he literally looked at me and said, "I want everyone in this production to sound like you." And
Oh, wow.
that was a huge page turn for me, because I realized heavily the truth that lies in the spaces that are meant for you will find you. And I really just kind of decided to stop changing everything about myself to try to be successful. And so I think in terms of an insecurity, I've grown out of people. I mean, it still hurts some days, but people wanting or hoping for or envisioning a different version of who I actually am, and just accepting who I am and learning to love her as she is without changing her.
Well, I mean, if they're not on board with Cassie, they can just go kick rocks, as far as I'm concerned. But no, I get asked that a lot too about haters. Other people who want to be podcasters, like, how do you deal with haters? I'm like, you just outlast them. You just don't. You keep showing up. If you keep showing up, they just go away, because you're not letting them win.
Yep.
And a lot of times you have haters because they want to achieve what you've achieved, right? That's where a lot of, and the times in my life where haters got to me, it happened a few times, like where I got super insecure. It's when I'm not living up to my potential, right? If I'm not living up to my potential, suddenly I'm a hater. I'm hating on people. I'm letting it all get to me, right? I'm hating on why is he doing that? But when I'm living my purpose, when I'm busting my butt to get after it, the haters go away.
Yeah.
The insecurities go away, because I've accepted who I am. I know what I'm capable of, and I know I'm in my purpose, my life's purpose right now. And there's nothing that's going to shake that ever.
Yeah.
And once you hit that point, you have to love yourself. You talk about taking care of yourself first. Don't lose yourself. Take care of yourself. I wholeheartedly agree with that. If you have to get yourself dialed in before you can impact other people's lives.
Oh, absolutely. And I always say, you are the only one responsible for filling up your own cup. And if your cup is not full, you cannot pour into others in a way that's going to matter. Yeah.
100. What is the most humbling experience you've had?
Oh,
I'm hitting you with some tough ones, right?
yeah. The most humbling experience. I mean, I wipe out a lot in public. So
What does
that's
that
always
mean?
really humbling. Like, fully just bite it.
Like fall?
Yeah. Like, a lot in public.
You're saying you're
It's like
clumsy.
ADHD, but I'm not. Like, I'm literally a dancer. So like,
Oh, that's right. I've seen your dancing.
That's
It's
the thing.
unreal how good you are. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe how good you were.
Thank you.
So you're right. I'm totally wrong. You are coordinated. So yeah, where does the when you eat it, how is that happening? Is it
I really
the
just think it's ADHD. Yeah, I really do. Because, like, I dance and sing 2.5 hour long shows in musical theater, and then I turn around and I, like, can't walk down 42nd Street without falling on my face. And I'll often have, like, a toddler-sized book bag on my back, so that adds to it, because then it's, like, turtle shelling over the top of me and I can't get up. That's always a really humbling experience. That happens to me multiple times a month.
You're like, "Hi, I'm Miss America."
Literally, just down I go.
Like, where'd she go? I felt like that at the Army Navy game, like having ADHD and being in an environment where everything is popping, like the coolest stuff I've ever seen in my life is happening. I didn't know where to start. I was there to film, and because I love creating content. I love making videos that put you in the moment, right? That's what I'm aiming for. And I made so many amazing videos from there. And but my ADHD was on overdrive. I stayed on that field the whole time. I had a box upstairs, like a really nice suite. I stayed on the field the entire time because it was like a kid in a candy. It was so amazing. And there's a few moments where I was right next to you. Um, one of which the group of Navy guys that was trying to get a photo with you. And that guy was Miss America, Miss
That was great.
America. And they're like, you can't cross this line. And the Navy guys, they kept chanting for you to come over, and they finally relinquished and let you take the photo. So there was that special moment. I saw another moment when the Navy won and they're all holding you. You're kind of laid side. I got a picture of that.
That was so cool.
I kept seeing you. As big as the stadium as that was, I kept running into you. And I was blessed to see the special moments that you were just creating everywhere. It was really cool. Okay, let's see. We'll do one more here, okay? That's too easy. It was the best moment of your life. I just feel like we kind of know what that might be. You know, the whole Miss America thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What's the most important lesson life has taught you thus far?
Yeah, I really think that it all boils down to you are the one and only person who is in control of the outcome of your life. Life will throw you curveballs left and right. It will surprise you. It will throw obstacles your way, and how you handle it is entirely up to you. And it will not always be easy. I mean, even the last 5 years of my life, sometimes I look around and I cannot even believe that I am where I am, that I am Miss America, that I am blessed to get to meet people every single day. But, you know, 17-year-old Cassie never would have thought ever in her life that she would have overcome everything that happened in her childhood. And then at 28 would be a survivor of rape, a survivor of domestic violence, would have found times where she was almost to the point of having, I was living off a box of rice at one point for weeks at a time financially. And now she's 28 years old and she has health insurance because she's a working professional actor. She is the chief operations officer of a company. She lives alone in New York City. And she takes care of her 2 dogs, and both of her parents are in relatively good health considering how they were for a good majority of her childhood. And she is also Miss America. And none of it, when I say it out loud, sounds like I'm talking about myself. I got to be really honest with you. Like, there are still some days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I am Miss America. That's insane. But there were so many times, and I almost did more than once, let one or multiple of those things completely halt me in anything that I was doing. But I knew that there were things that I wanted to do. I knew that there were people that I wanted to help. And I would not be the founder and operator of 3 arts education scholarships that help young people today had I allowed those things to happen. I would not be in the process of establishing a nonprofit that will in turn help standardized educators in their classrooms provide arts education integrated into those typical curriculum classrooms and helping young emerging artists. I would not be able to be Miss America and pouring into people in the capacity that I do. I wouldn't be helping at different VA hospitals, ensuring that accessibility is there for our veterans, for the service that they gave to our country. I wouldn't, if I had allowed all of those things to slap me right in the face and knock me down and not try to get back up again. No, it wasn't the timeline that I thought I'd have. It wasn't with ease that I had hoped that I had had. But life so often tries to tell us we can't accomplish things, but life is not the one who has the reins on that outcome. And so the biggest thing that I have ever learned is not allowing those circumstances to take control of what I'm wanting to do. And that's hard. That's not easy. It is something I still have to actively choose to do every single day. And I don't always succeed at it. I do not claim to be perfect at any of the things that I encourage others to do in terms of their mindset. It's just not, if someone's telling you they're perfect at succeeding at it every day, they're lying to you. That's just not how life or the human brain works. But I think truly, like I said, it all boils down to that concept of you are the only one who controls that outcome. And your decisions might not always be what you thought they were going to be. And you just have to make them as educated as best you can and do everything you can to keep your attitude in the way that you want it to be. And those goals will eventually be reached. Maybe not in the way that they originally conceptualized in your brain, sometimes better than the way you originally conceptualized them in your brain. But you have to keep pushing through.
When one door closes, another opens.
Yep. And if not, go find a window.
Go find a window. Get a ladder.
Yeah.
Cassie, you dropped some heavy stuff in that, and I'm very thank you for sharing that. I know that's not easy to share. Sometimes it's hard to even put words to traumatic stuff we've been through, right? It's we can't even find the words to say it sometimes. But I have to say, I respect you even more now because you've been through so much. You've worked your butt off for this. You have gone through, I mean, blood, sweat, and tears, the whole gamut since you were that 9-year-old little girl with a dream, with every odd imaginable stacked against you. And yet here you are, Miss America 2026. And so one of the last questions, I have two, I'm sorry, I'm keeping you,
No,
but
please.
I have two questions I want to end with. One's from my daughter, and I can't forget that one. And the other is your legacy. So you were only in January, it's January 6th. You get to spend a lot, like a whole year,
Yeah.
to my knowledge, being Miss America and creating a positive impact by sharing your story and connecting with people. What does that legacy look like? You have a full year to get after it. At the end of that year, what do you hope is different with you and America in general?
If nothing else, I hope that people are able to walk away from my year of service as Miss America being able to have felt seen and loved and heard. Not just by me, by the organization as a whole, by those that I bring into their lives, but especially by me. Because if someone does not truly feel that appreciation for who they are authentically, nothing else matters that you're doing, right? Like I said, my favorite part of my job is just getting to love people. And if someone is able to walk away from their experiences with me throughout this year saying that they felt that, then I have done my job successfully. In terms of myself, it has been a lot of growth that I'm grateful for. I always say the Lord prepares you for exactly what you ask for. And, a career in the entertainment industry is not the easiest, both just in practice of the discipline it takes to be in this industry, but also the amount of times we're told no and the amount of times we are told things about ourselves we don't necessarily want to hear. And I mean, I was thrust into being an ambassador of an internationally known brand overnight. And that came with a lot of opinions from a lot of people I will never meet in my life. And that's okay. They're allowed to have their opinion. The internet is an open forum. Let them say their truth and how they feel. They're allotted that. It's valid. But I then had to have a lot of work in understanding and choosing what I was going to digest and what I was going to surround myself with and what I was going to allow to influence my inner monologue, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's the loudest, right? And so I think I've made a lot of growth in this department, but I am hopeful even more so for the continued growth of just that security of, like I said, that nobody else's opinion of me is my business. And by the end of the year, really being able to walk through life with that deep understanding and confidence in knowing that that is true. Like, that is factual. The only opinion that matters of me is my own, right? And that's not to say that we disregard the people we care about and respect and how they are, viewing us. That's not what I mean. But the negative noise, it's just noise. That's all it is. And I went into this experience for the most part, knowing who Cassie is and being really proud of her and loving her. And it was really important to me that that stayed constant throughout my journey of becoming Miss America, and that that stayed true throughout my journey as Miss America and well beyond. And it was tested many times right out the gate with that noise. And so a lot of that growth has already happened, and being able to phase that out and block it out. And I am very grateful for such a safe space with the team that I have and the people around me to be able to continue to grow and to learn and to love through some of those moments.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And that brings us to the last question from my little girl, Summer, who's 8. She loves acting. She's been in plays already. She loves singing, dancing, gymnastics. She's gonna do something that changes the world. I just know it. I have that feeling. She loved you. She was fascinated by you, watched your singing, your dancing. I saw your national anthem in person. I mean, you're very talented.
Thank you.
And so I was like, hey, Summer, you're gonna be at school when I talk to her, but do you have a question that I could, pass on to her? And her question was, she wants to chase her dreams too. She was pretty impressed by how talented you were. I mean, you clearly are really good at what you do. And she was looking for any advice on how to achieve, what you've achieved, like any sort of direction or advice that Summer can use as she grows into a beautiful woman one day.
Biggest thing is just knowing who she is. And that takes time. And that will probably change more than once throughout the course of her life. And being okay with who that is. And understanding that confidence is not a character trait, but it is a learned skill. And we cannot expect to love ourselves entirely every single day, but we should expect and hold ourselves to the standard, giving ourselves the grace that we give everybody else. And when we learn to do that, then it's easier to not let other people's noise affect the way that we view ourselves, because it's a lot easier to be successful in the things that you're hoping to do when you're doing it 100% as yourself, and not trying to also balance being this character that you have created for the world around you that's digestible for them, because being digestible for other people is really freaking boring. And the thing that makes you unique is the thing that some people are probably going to call weird. And I think that's a great word. I think that there's no negative connotation to that. And if someone tries to put it on you in a negative way, that's not your people. So if someone thinks you're too much, then they can go and find less. And if someone thinks you're not enough, then they're not searching in the right place, because I promise you that you are. And as long as she is comfortable in figuring out who that person is at every phase of her life, and being proud of that person and the constant growth and work on that person, then I am positive that she will be able to change the world in whatever way that she is destined to.
Dang, that was mic drop. Oh, she's gonna love that. Thank you for doing that for us. That's very special. Well, Cassie, I can't believe it. We've already talked more than an hour. It was such a, great conversation. It felt like 30 minutes. It didn't even feel like an hour. You're an incredible person. I think you are the epitome of what Miss America should be. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing that stood out to me was you have perspective. That is powerful, right? Because you can't buy it. You have to you have to go through it. You have to live it. You have to get through to the other side. But your perspective is what makes you so special, and what makes you the best Miss America. You're definitely my favorite one.
Thanks.
But you are the epitome of what Miss America is all about, because of what your lived experience, what you've been through, the blood, sweat, and tears that got you to this point, the perspective. And now you can share that story with the world and inspire millions of people. And I just can't thank you enough for spending time with me and the Hero Front audience today. With that being said, do you have any final thoughts for those who listen to the very end?
Well, thank you for staying here through my not so short answers to everything, everybody.
I'm a podcaster. I'm very long. You're in good company.
Yeah. But thank you, Josh, for giving me this opportunity. It is always so wonderful. Every single time we've talked, it's just you're my people, and I can tell you're my people. So thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for sharing with me, because I'm sure your listeners have heard some of the things you shared today, but thank you for that insight, and thank you for your service, and for the impact that you now allow that to have in this way on other people, and your accomplishments. And that's absolutely incredible and did not come easy. I know that for a fact. So thank you for the sacrifice you gave to get to that point and to reach that achievement. And I know this is for everyone listening. I know it is not said enough, and saying it is not enough, but to every single person who has chosen for generations to risk potentially giving the ultimate sacrifice so we can sit here and have these conversations and go about our mundane days. Thank you. It is not unnoticed. I know it often feels that way, especially as time goes on and the world changes and new generations come. Please know that there are many, many, many of us who understand and feel and see that impact of that sacrifice every single day. And to your families, the sacrifice that you are giving as well, because freedom is never free. Even when it feels like it is, even when the world sounds quiet, it's not quiet out there. And so thank you. Thank you for that. Because even as simple as me being Miss America is because of every single one of you. And that is factual. It's nothing I did. Because if you all hadn't done what you did first, I wouldn't be in this position.
Dang, you about to make me cry.
No.
That's like the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Thank you, Cassie. That was amazing. I appreciate that. And I'm sure every veteran listening definitely appreciates that, because they got a thank you from Miss America herself. So for everyone who listened to the very end, thank you so much, Cassie. We talked so much about the moment that you won, the work that went into it, our amazing Army Navy game time that was like life changing, like one of the best days ever. Your dad, his service, the underdog story of when you thought you lost it all, you're about to throw in the towel, but guess what? You showed it. You kept showing up, and look at you now. And so for everyone still listening, thank you so much for joining in, for tuning in. This was the hero's journey of Cassie Donegan, Miss America 2026. And we're out.